All right, so I have to start off with a warning to you all. I want you to think about, just for a minute, what you've done. You've let a former Mormon missionary have 6 minutes of time to talk about whatever he wants to. Now, I'm actually not going to talk about Mormonism. You can ask me about it on your own time if you want to. And I think I have probably the two most risque slides you're going to see tonight. So, on the subject of death, I want to talk about the ancestors I want to meet as soon as I die. And this, okay, I'll talk a little bit about Mormonism. Mormon study a lot. So I have my family lots of stories about these people who came before us, who I'm related to. So the first person I want to talk about, I'm going to talk really fast and tell you lots of stories, but the first one I want to talk about is Robert Leroy Parker. He was born in Utah. He was a bandit. He robbed banks. He robbed trains. In fact, he was more famously known as Butch Cassidy, as in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And the next slide should come up right now. Boom! He's also the only family member of mine that was played by Paul Newman. That's something else. But I mean, he led a life of adventure, and okay. Going on, James Shelley. He joined the Mormon Church in England in 1830. He emigrated to America. He traveled to Utah, Oregon Trail style, in the covered wagon. He, once he was there, the prophet Brigham Young said, "You need to go and settle somewhere else." And so he sent him to San Bernardino, where he started his farm. Here's lush San Bernardino. It was beautiful at the time. He loved it. He had this great farm. It was fertile ground. He was farming there with his family, and then he got another notice from the prophet Brigham Young, who said, "You guys have it too easy in San Bernardino. We need you to move to Joseph City, Arizona."
Oh, it seems so good.
Is this working?
Yeah.
Joseph City, Arizona, which is the most godforsaken place I've ever been to. And this is also why I came from Arizona. I'm not a rich San Bernardino landowner. But he left in this legacy of someone who was willing to do what he believed was right, no matter the cost. So another person is Julian Beard Rand. He was born and grew up maybe like 2 or 3 blocks from here. He came from a wealthy, educated family. That's him in the middle. He's a ladies' man. But he decided to leave this wealth and education behind. He wanted to be a cowboy. So he learned how to use horses and be an adventurer. Here he is in World War I in France. I chose this picture because everyone says I look exactly like him.
I was just thinking.
Yeah, there we go. There you go. So while in France, rather than fighting a war, Indian Americans decided to start a circus instead. And did all these shows for the French people, and he was really good at it because as a horseman, he could ride 2 horses at once by standing on the saddles. And yeah, I know, it's amazing. And for some reason, he was wearing like a Roman toga for the circus. I don't get exactly what the point of that was. But yeah, that spirit of adventure, I just love about him. I also want to talk about his sister, Helen Rand, who I don't have a picture of, unfortunately. Helen didn't want to leave wealth and education behind. She became a teacher. She lived by herself in a beautiful house in San Francisco. And I've read lots of letters between her and my mom. And she talked a lot about education and teaching creativity and teaching these great ideas. Another great thing about Helen was that she was a devout communist. She had in her house these great pictures of Marx and Lenin, prominently displayed, but she was overt about it because this was the 1950s, and you had to watch out for McCarthy coming after you. But I just love having this communist great aunt in my family. It's just a great character to have. And, yeah, okay, so, yeah, I keep on losing it again. There we go. Okay, so the next person is my mom, Carol Boyle, who informed me when I was preparing this presentation that she's not actually dead. But I'm going to talk about her anyway. My mom graduated from Brigham Young University with an education degree. And then she married my dad and moved to Memphis, Tennessee, where my dad was attending dental school. This was during the 1960s in the civil rights movement. And we talk about all these great civil rights icons. Mom is her own civil rights icon. She was the first white teacher to teach in an all-black school in Memphis, Tennessee. This isn't her. This is just a picture of something. Another great thing about my mom is this. She continued this legacy of adventure. In 1983, she took us all to France for a month. And I was 1 year old at the time. She took me to the Louvre. And she was carrying me in her arms because she was a baby. I was a baby. And she was looking at the painting, and she found a painting that she stopped at. And this is the risque image I was telling you about. This is Monet's Olympia. My mom is also an artist, and she was holding her arms, and she stopped in front of this painting, and it's huge, right? It covers like a whole wall. And she said she just cried and cried and cried because of how beautiful it was. And she held me in her arms, and she was inspired by this painting as well, and she did her own little painting later on, which was me, in a similar pose. That's me in my underwear. That was painting in my house, all growing up. I brought over, had to see me in my underwear. Last person is my brother Andrew. He died at 16 of cancer. And I'll tell you one story about him. When I was 5 years old, we were making sandwiches. And I didn't like mustard. I said, I don't want mustard on my sandwich. He told me, if you put mustard on your sandwich, you'll be able to fly. So I did. I put mustard on my sandwich, I ate it, there's some mustard. And after I ate it, he picked me up, and he flew me down the street. I'm losing it again. All the way down the street to my grandparents' house, a long ways. And for that moment, I was flying. And I honor that sense of fun and that sense of adventure with his. Which leaves me with the last thought of what am I doing, knowing these people, knowing these stories, what am I doing so that I can face them? What am I doing so that when the time comes, I can face them? And I leave that to all you. What are you doing so that you can face them?